So the release of the Indian Navy personnel seemed like mission impossible. But both the officers and diplomats say Prime Minister's personal intervention and supervision worked. Let's get you more on this big story as efforts continue to get the 8th officer back home and safe. Joining me on India First, Captain DK Sharma, former spokesperson of the Indian Navy and of course a consultant with Bharat Shakti. Also with me is Abhijit Iyer Mitra, Senior Research Fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. Abhijit, the case seemed opaque, the task tough. How tough was it actually for India to get the Indian Navy personnel or the former Indian Navy personnel back home?
Gaurav, it would have been superhuman, and I'll tell you why. You know, there was incredulity in all of us, including myself, that we'll ever get them out, because remember, we have never managed to get any of our people convicted in other countries out. Especially if you remember, for the longest time, many Indians used to be on death row in the Gulf countries, and we used to just let them die. At best, you know, the kind of diplomatic support they used to get is, you know, funding for a local lawyer and things like that. This went up to the highest level. So this is a watershed moment in Indian diplomatic history, because the case of Indians arrested abroad for the first time has been taken up to the Prime Minister's level. And the Prime Minister has decided to intervene very decisively here. Normally what happens is, at most, it gets upgraded to the Foreign Ministry level. And in the Foreign Ministry, we need to remember, no modern country is the Foreign Ministry given the kind of interference authorities in investigation, domestic affairs, law and order, crime, etc., etc. So this required a prime ministerial intervention. I would give 100% credit for this entirely to Narendra Modi. Second, we need to remember that the charges against them are not spying for India, they're spying for Israel, which was, if you remember, Qatar never joined the Abraham Accords. So the charge was particularly grave. And just to finish very quickly, Gaurav, third, normally what would have happened was, Qatar, as per our bilateral agreements, Qatar would have maybe commuted the death sentence to life in prison, and then they would have had to come and serve it out in India, not subject to Indian parole or, you know, the 14 years equals life rule, but as per Qatari restrictions. What Narendra Modi has done is he has not just commuted it to a life sentence, he has got them a royal pardon, which could have only been done at the head of government to head of government level. So, you know, this is totally unprecedented in Indian diplomatic history.
It's unprecedented. If these personnel are today breathing in free air, perhaps their Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Ministry of External Affairs to thank. Captain Sharma, for the families, it was pure torture. Officers who've in the past won the President's Medal, directors of training, directors of logistics, upright officers, suddenly jailed, and when information actually came to India, they had actually been sentenced to death and put in solitary confinement.